All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Modern Magic the Gathering League. Today we're going to be playing a deck with a brew that I've been working on a little bit off stream. This is a deck that I'm dubbing just white-red Asmoblade. It's basically based on the synergy of Ranger-Captain of Eos and Asmora. So Ranger-Captain of Eos, if you're unfamiliar, this is a creature that I'm sure most people are aware can grab creatures with CMC 1, but it also can grab creatures CMC 1 or less, of which Asmora is a 0 CMC creature. So the synergy between Ranger being able to pick up Asmora out of your deck is sort of an interesting tutor ability that I don't think very many people have explored. So I've just been trying to, see how it feels and see what that particular setup can give you. It's been pretty impressive so far. Haven't 5-0'd with the deck just yet, so I don't think it's necessarily broken or anything, but it has been fun to play, and I'm hoping to get some good games with it. So starting here on the play with a turn 1 monkey, it's pretty good lineup. Obviously, Ranger Captain being able to find Asmora is good. Being able to find Monkey is also pretty good at certain stages of the game, so. Just gonna play out Shinka. I don't know that they've got any like flash creatures they could potentially play here, but if they had one, we would have the blocker for it. Or we would have the first strike for it. So here we can go grab Asmora with this Ranger Captain. So turn 1 monkey, turn 2 ranger to grab Asmora is pretty good. At this point in time, if we draw anything that lets us discard, if we draw an Aether Vial, anything like that, it's going to be pretty solid. So this lets us keep attacking, which is good here. Actually, you could probably still just attack anyways. Just like attack, and then if they block, give it first strike. They grabbed a Batter Skull. Luminarch Aspirant. Okay, that card's pretty good. I'll probably be casting that one. I'll just cast Shadowspear here. Are we putting in Kaldra? We are putting in Kaldra. Question is, are we attacking with Kaldra? We are attacking with Kaldra. This seems a little greedy, not gonna lie. Let's make the monkey a little bigger, I guess. Probably supposed to suit up. This is fine. Okay, so they're going to take 4. This is the reason to pump something like the Luminarch or the Ranger Captain. I figured pumping the Ranger Captain didn't make the most sense, so I didn't decide to go with that one. Let's play out Nettlecyst. And let's just play the Marsh Flats and say go. I'm probably going to chump block. That one's definitely a little awkward. Asmora is like our best card in our hand. We just needed some way to get that through. And if they take the Asmora, then our hand is definitely a little awkward. The Daredevils are castable, at least. Yeah, this is definitely a rough spot. It's it's somewhat difficult for us to beat a Kaldra. We do have the Shadowspear in play, so we can make this non-indestructible anymore, but we just have to have some way to get the engine going. Like, I need a cookbook here. If we had the Asmora still in our hand, that's like we would just have a very good turn. If we draw another Ranger-Captain, that would be good. Ranger-Captain into yeah, see, Aether Vial would be fine here if we still had the Asmora in our hand, but without Asmora, definitely gets a lot more awkward. So the problem is that if they have a fifth land, they just get to put the Batterskull into play and then start attacking with the Batterskull on the Kaldra. And then it doesn't really matter how big we make something to put in front of the Kaldra because of the line of text that exiles the creature. So like even if we had a, like even I believe, so right now the Nettlecyst is going to give a creature +3/+3. So if we put the Nettlecyst on the Ranger-Captain, put the Shadowspear on the Ranger-Captain, this becomes a 7/7. We can play an Aether Vial to make it an 8/8. And then Luminarch, we can go to combat, make this a 9/9. And then we have a very large creature that we can attack with, which I suppose is still the line, because at least it gains us 9 life. But the problem is that if you put this in front of the Kaldra and then use the Shadowspear's ability to block to make the Kaldra lose indestructible, that's all fine and dandy. The problem is that this line of text that says whenever this creature deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. So even if my creature's the same size, his guy does first strike damage, and then my creature's going to get exiled. So even if my creature's bigger. And this thing's going to be a 9/9, so getting this bigger than this is going to be quite difficult. But as I mentioned before, I still think the correct line is to try and make this as big as possible and just hope to rip Asmora next turn. And that it's probably going to be good enough. He's got the Batterskull, which we know about. He gets to put the Batterskull in front of my guy, which gains him 4 life. But we still have Trample, so we're going to effectively deal him 1, and we gain 9. We're still in okay shape here. So yeah, they have a 9/9 that they get to attack with. I was a little bit afraid of them attacking with this. We just don't have anything to block with properly, so. For reasons mentioned before, I am not going to put this on 1. We want this on 0. If we draw Asmora, didn't draw Asmora, we drew Urza's Saga. And I think Urza's Saga is probably still just too little too late. because we can play Urza Saga and the problem is that, honestly, if this was a legendary creature, we would actually be in good shape here because we could block, give the legendary creature first strike, and then these would trade in combat because we can make this lose indestructible. But unfortunately, as it is, I think we are going to get got here. There's no, we just can't, we can't attack. What I can do is I can let them attack, and assuming we're going to attack with all creatures, that's kind of a given. So I guess we're gonna just cast a Daredevil. We're not technically dead, I don't think. I haven't done the math, but I'm probably supposed to make the Aspirant a 2/2. We're not gaining any life, so it kind of doesn't matter. We have a Thought-Knot Seer, not a big deal. Relic's not a big deal. We main deck, or well, we were main decking Relic at one point in time in this deck. Relic is a little bit awkward against Ovalchase Daredevil. I will note that. They're just attacking with this, which means we do have to just block with this. And at this point, I actually don't even think Asmora is a good enough draw anymore because we played out the Daredevil. So we have enough mana to still equip everything. I'm gonna put this all on the Luminarch, I suppose. Yeah, we still have the treasure to make a construct token. This is still a 9/9, so they can only deal 9 damage to this. We have 9 toughness basically in the way. So we get one more draw step, I think, is the maximum. We can somehow kill the Thought-Knot Seer in combat. If my opponent somehow makes a mistake there, should attack with Thought-Knot and the Germ. This equipment's probably going to kill us. I don't know what they can get here, but whatever it is, it's probably well more than enough to kill us here. Putting it on the Kaldra. This means we're supposed to double block. And this is still fine. They're going to deal first strike damage, and that kills the Daredevil, sends it to the graveyard. Marsh Flats. And we get to make 2 constructs here, which again, I still don't know if that's good enough. Making the first construct is going to let me pick up the Daredevil. So we are going to have a card in hand. We can go tutor a cookbook. And the cookbook is going to make some foods, which will make the Nettlecyst larger and the constructs larger. So we have that engine going. And I'm not going to use Aether Vial's ability. Ranger-Captain is another copy of Asmora. Which I think is probably good enough. I think I just want the mana to be able to move my equipments this turn, so I'm not actually going to make another construct. Like, I need mana to be able to move equipments, and so we're going to grab a cookbook, play out a Ranger-Captain, go grab Asmora, Violin and Asmora. Go grab a cookbook. Still might just be a little bit too late, unfortunately. So here we can move the Nettlecyst to the construct. And this thing's just huge. Okay. I think we're in good shape here. They just need to not kill the construct this turn, and we'll be okay. The construct is going to be a 17 power creature. I'm sorry, 16 power creature. Because each food gives it +2/+2 because it's got a Nettlecyst and a construct. Plus abilities. What are you doing? Moving the sword, okay? I think we have to block like this. Oh, yes. Yeah, they still have the relic in play. Okay, that's probably GG's, honestly. I kind of forgot about the relic, if I'm being completely honest with you. The whole time I was just like, not even paying attention to the fact that they had a relic in play. It's really unfortunate because the Stoneforge is like really a good draw here. We still have the Shinka and Asmora like combo too, so I don't even know if I'm supposed to concede here, but I'm going to concede just for time's sake. We're just getting to the point in the game where if I don't concede now, I'm not gonna have enough time to play the next games. So we're just going to try and beat the Kaldra off the back of Dispatch. I actually do think that like if the game keeps going and they keep drawing duds, then we might be able to get out of that spot because Stoneforge Mystic lets us go grab sort of Fire and Ice or Kaldra, which we can put into play on the following turn. And on that turn, so Asmora's the 3/3 with a legend creature, which we can give first strike. We just need a ridiculous amount of mana to keep going there, and I don't think that we had it. I wasn't going to sit there and do the math because it probably would have taken me too much time to figure it all out, but you can give the Asmora first strike, block the Kaldra. Both creatures have first strike. you can use the Shadowspear's ability to make the Kaldra lose indestructible, and then the Nettlecyst underneath the Asmora would have given it well more than enough power to kill the Kaldra in combat. So we would have been able to win on that front, but then we still have to beat the Thought-Knot Seer with the Sword of Fire and Ice on it, and I don't know that we were going to have enough time to do that, so that's why I just conceded there. Prismatic Ending's not that great. It does answer Kaldra token, but I think Dispatch is going to be a better answer for their creatures in general. Number of Shattering Sprees is not too bad, probably. Probably don't want Pyrite Spellbomb. That card's just kind of awkward in the matchup. Trim a Vial and a Ragavan. One thing I'll note is I have another deck sort of queued up in my lists here of things that I want to try out that has a slightly more interesting build, in my opinion. Probably can't keep that one. This hand's okay. It's got turn 1 Vial for Ragavan. I'm going to put back Prismatic Ending. We're actually supposed to lead on Ragavan instead of Vial for Ragavan. They let Ragavan connect a couple times. I don't think they have a ton of 1 mana answers to Ragavan. Do have a Giver of Runes. Well, I'll trade. We could Dispatch and just like tap the Giver, but I think that's a poor use of card Dispatch. We'll try and get my Kaldra into play as early as possible. It's relatively difficult for them to deal with as it was for us. They grab their own Kaldra. Let's just go ahead and get in for 5. So cookbooks, or Daredevil's a pretty solid draw because we had the cookbook already. Go ahead and play the Vial. It does seem like we might lose to the Relic Warder. They're going to get to put their Kaldra into play this turn, which is kind of rough for us because we're just short on mana and short on artifact synergies here. Sort of Fire and Ice. Well, I am going to block. It's basically not a world where I'm not blocking here. We can like dispatch this in combat, but that doesn't really do much. I kind of don't hate just like dispatching this now. to make sure that they can't get their Kaldra down. And then let's just Shattering Spree this for 0 replicate. And then we'll Daredevil loop here this turn. We'll make a construct next turn and they have another Stoneforge Mystic. We know they have a Kaldra in their hand. Grab Batterskull. Not much we can do this turn, unfortunately. We're just going to make a construct with the Saga. And we do have to beat this Kaldra. Well, this is incorrect. We might have a path. At which point it becomes correct. I was not supposed to grab basic planes there. It's the only basic we have in our deck. I guess if we don't grab basic planes there, we die. No. Sacred Foundry. I think that means we're dead. I don't think there's any 1-mana spells that we can grab that are gonna beat Kaldra, Leonard, or Warp. Or we're like, we just can't beat all 3 creatures at one, unfortunately. Fell a little bit too far behind that game. First game was very close. I do think that we may have been able to dig ourselves out of that if we had been given a little bit more time. Yeah, just drawing double Daredevil. Like, I don't know. Just the thing about Daredevil in this deck, the Daredevils, it always feels a little bit awkward to me. I'll go take a quick peek at the. So this is the secondary list that I'm sort of thinking about trying out here at some point. So this is the list we're playing right now with 4 Daredevils. If we dip for green, you get Eladamri's Call, which means you can play 1 Daredevil instead of 4. Play 1 as a tutor target. I kind of like that idea a little bit better. Also, if you play green, you get access to Renin 6, which is kind of cool with Urza Saga. You can start recycling Urza Sagas every turn, which is kind of neat. So, see how that one goes. This hand's fine. It's got interaction, and it's got other things to be doing. I'm gonna turn my fan on real quick. Me and my monkey. Yep, name a more iconic duo. I'll play anything with the monkey right now. I like the monkey a lot. Okay, getting Inquisitioned. If they took our cookbook the first time, I would imagine, okay, they're not taking Asmora, which, I mean, like, makes sense, but it's just kind of weird for them to take Inquisition, or the cookbook on turn 1. Okay. Not drawing a ton of action. Opponent's taking our 2 castable spells. I don't know if I'd necessarily consider this action, but this was. Tarmogoyf. Okay. I have the answer to that one. I think I like just Prismatic Ending this turn and playing a tap Sacred Foundry. Reason for that is, let's see here what we draw. Vial's kind of interesting. So you can play Vial on this turn, Vial and Asmora, grab Cookbook. Doesn't really do much. I think we're probably still supposed to do it. Prismatic, that guy. And then now we can Asmora, or Vial in the Asmora, grab a cookbook. Unfortunately, we don't have a Daredevil, so we can't start that loop up just yet. But not a huge deal. Part of the reason why I like doing this is because then we can tick the Vial up to 1 on this next turn. Play Ranger Captain, go grab Ragavan, Vial in the Ragavan on their end of turn. And then they have to beat Asmora, a Ranger Captain, and the monkey. If we draw a Daredevil, this obviously goes a lot more in our favor. I am going to tick this up to 1. Nettlecyst. I don't think Nettlecyst really changes the game plan. Still just going to play Ranger Captain, go grab Monkey, play the cookbook, cast the cookbook. Yeah, the 1 Emrakul's in the sideboard for Mill. I think it's just a little bit more popular on Magic Online right now, so I just want something there for that. There's some argument to be made about which Eldrazi you should play. I think Emrakul is just the correct one for right now because the new mill card that people are trying out is Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which exiles 20 CMC worth of cards out of your deck. If you have the Emrakul, it's just more CMC, right? It's just 15 versus 10 or 12 or whatever. Okay, picking up a Verdant. Whether or not they attack is somewhat interesting. Yeah, I actually don't like this attack from them. They know we have a monkey in our hand. And like I could just even choose to double block here, and that doesn't even seem that terrible to me. Because we can just rebuy either of the creatures with the cookbook. And then it's just me versus, like it's me and my monkey versus their Wrenn and 6. I mean, I guess the monkey dies to Wrenn and 6, which is a little bit awkward. But yeah, I think I like double blocking here. Like they only get to eat 1 of these creatures in combat, and currently the Asmora is not doing anything. Asmora is the best creature in play, obviously, but until we draw a Daredevil, she's not really doing much. I don't think I want to just pitch my Nettlecyst for no value. I will go ahead and use Aether Vial's ability to put it up to 2. Urza's Saga is a pretty solid draw here. We'll go ahead and attack the Wrenn and attack them. Wonder if maybe I'm supposed to... Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to do this post-combat. They probably think they're going to throw the Wrenn at the monkey, but I'm just going to move the Nettlecyst to the monkey. This way this monkey has enough toughness to just survive a Wrenn and 6-peen. I think that makes the most sense to me. Make an argument for maybe just doing that pre-combat, but I think if you do that pre-combat, they're less likely to block, maybe. I'm not really sure. Okay. How do we want to beat Umerjand? Most of our hate is for like very up-to-date artifact decks, things like that. Relic is kind of cute. Is Pithing Needle any good? Pithing Needle's probably okay. Cards that we don't really want. Don't really want to flood on vials. Pyrite Spellbomb doesn't seem like it does much. Sort of Fire and Ice, probably hard to get going against Jund. And it's somewhat difficult to make trims in this kind of a deck where you just have a bunch of 4-ofs. So I think it's just correct to just start trimming some of the things. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll just trim. We'll bring in 2 relics. The relics are mostly there for their Wrenn and 6s, their Tarmogoyfs, that sort of thing. And for clarification, I know I was talking in Spike's chat earlier about this deck a little bit, and someone had mentioned that Relic of Progenitus seems like a little bit of a nombo with Ovalchase Daredevil, but there's actually not very many spots, if any, where those cards are going to overlap in such a way that is like anti-beneficial for you. Like it's just incorrect to be playing those 2 cards together. There's not a ton of scenarios, if any at all, that I can think of where they're gonna, you're gonna end up in a bad spot because you're playing these 2 cards together. So if my opponent kept a 1-land hand, it's correct for me to just Prismatic the Ignoble, because they might be like trying to line up turn 2 Wrenn off of Ignoble Hierarch. Which is like good for this play would be good for me if we knew that they were trying to do that. So I don't think I have much else of a choice, if I'm being honest. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Maybe I wasn't supposed to keep this hand, if I'm being honest. Basic Swamp is bad for my opponent. Asmora. I'm going to play a Ragavan out and hope my opponent doesn't kill it. My opponent didn't kill it. At least not in the main phase. Or at least not on my turn. Thought sees me. Take a Daredevil. This card's really powerful, I promise. He's 4-mana spell. 4-mana spells are very powerful in Modern, I've been told. They did take the Cookbook, which is probably the best card in our hand, so. Go ahead and play out Stoneforge Mystic. And I'm going to grab Kaldra, I think. Might be incorrect to grab the 7-mana artifact while our hand is somewhat incapable of playing a 7-mana artifact, but I think it's got the highest upside if we just hit our second land, or even if the monkey connects again. Third Daredevil is definitely not what we want to see. Okay. Well, it definitely seems like my opponent's probably just going to lose this game to the lamest beats ever. My opponent has kept a hand with 4 lands and a Thoughtseize. I guess they must have something very powerful to do on 4 mana. It's got to be Bloodbraid Elf or something. Liliana the Veil, okay. Okay, make me sacrifice. I'm gonna go ahead and put the Kaldra into play. And then we'll sacrifice the Stoneforge Mystic. And honestly, I don't even think I'm going to attack the Liliana. I think I'm just going to let them have it. I don't really care if they take cards out of my hand because currently I'm holding 3 copies of Ovalchase Daredevil. So make me discard all they want to. It looked like they went to pay cost there. Maybe they have a Lightning Bolt. Not really too sure. Attack you. Monkey grabs. It'd be really nice if my opponent just gave me a Renin 6. It's probably supposed to play Nettle Sentinel there. I'm sorry, Nettlecyst. Nettle Sentinel. That's an elf. It seems like just the front half, the non-metal craft side of Dispatch is probably going to be good enough this game. It feels like they're probably going to put some blockers in front of me. Yep. You can Ancient Grudge my indestructible artifact. Feels like their hand might just be another copy of Liliana. I'm really not too sure if I'm being honest. Okay, they conceded. Yeah, I think this deck seems like it's got some potential, it's got some legs, but I think I'm more interested in the deck that's splashing green. I think it's probably got more powerful things going on. I'm really not too sure how to go about this deck. I don't know. I like the idea of Spike. I asked Spike for some advice on this one. He advised the vials, and I wanted to try a Mox Amber in the deck, which I don't hate currently. The Mox Amber is like good in some scenarios where you need an extra mana source off of Urza Saga, and you've got an Asmora or Ragavan in play, something like that. So it's felt interesting so far for sure. We'll just have to keep messing around with it. So, but I think there's something here. I don't know exactly which iteration you decide to go with, but something's here. Shame that we don't have any 1 mana Tormenting Voice or similar, like a 1 mana discard 1 draw 2, something like what's the discard a land card? I can't remember the name of it. There's a 1 mana discard a land draw 2 card. But yeah, something like are you saying like to get the Daredevils out of your hand? That's kind of okay. Magmatic Insight, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like the Daredevils are mostly there, obviously, as a way to you know, recycle with your food package plan. So most of the time, it's not you know, it doesn't feel very bad. But yeah, if you draw multiple copies, definitely starts to feel bad. Usually in the blue-black Asmora decks, it's less of a concern because you have cards that pull you ahead otherwise with Thought Monitor and Urza. And this deck does have like powerful effects at 2 and 3 mana with Stoneforge Mystic, and I'm gonna put this up to 1. We have another Vial, so I'll leave this one on 0. Sure, another Daredevil, which is not ideal. Feels like maybe a Liliana, Seasoned Pyromancer, okay. Smuggler's Copter instead of Vial. I don't think you have enough creatures to crew it is a problem. Like, I don't want to play a monkey and then crew Smuggler's Copter with monkey, that kind of thing. But it's not a bad idea. I don't hate it. Like, you'd just be able to loot away Daredevils. It's kind of a neat idea. So I'm gonna do always no, always yield to this Vial. And then on this one, I am gonna go up to 2. Play out Shinka, and we're gonna make some constructs here. We do get to put in Stoneforge Mystic with the Vial, which is pretty cool. Yeah, we have Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah, I mean, usually in a Smuggler's Copter deck, you want to play like, it's usually the correct builds for Smuggler's Copter decks are like, it's kind of like a collected company deck in a lot of ways. You know, you want to play Smuggler's Copter alongside maybe 4 to 8 removal spells, and then the rest of the deck just needs to be creatures that you can put in play to crew the Smuggler's Copter. But it would be kind of cool because we're playing Daredevil, so it'd be like a little, you know, family reunion for Kaladesh cards, right? Sort of Fire and Ice, Kaldra, Nettlecyst, Shadowspear. Feels like a Sophie kind of setting. It's either that or Kaldra. Let's do Kaldra. It feels kind of like they might have a they may have a Culligan's Command. Do I want to tick up this Vial? We'll go to 3 on that Vial, yeah. I want to give myself... The Vials are a little bit awkward in this deck, I'm not going to lie. Figuring out what number to put your charge counters on can be a tad bit tedious. I do want to make a construct here. And I think I will go ahead and grab a cookbook. This puts the most artifacts in play to make the constructs bigger. Also grab Shadowspear, which isn't terrible, but I think I like cookbook. Go ahead and get in for 5. Just solve damage there. Etched Champion's a pretty solid draw as well. Etched Champion's pretty cool here. Etched Champion feels like a card that's like pretty solid as a tutor target in the green-white version. This one I just threw it in as a random one of, but it's been pretty... I haven't played it a ton, but the few games that I have gotten to cast Etched Champion seems pretty solid. Just like randomly is gonna get to pick up an equipment, and it's very difficult for your opponent to interact with. Opponent has to have EE on 0 to blow up all the foods for it to really lose Metalcraft a lot of the time. Okay, so we're playing against Mardu Stuff. Last round we played against Jun Stuff, and now we're playing against Mardu Stuff. I mean, the only card that I'm even considering is like Relic, maybe Dispatches. I bet Dispatch is probably better than Prismatic Ending. Just playing like 3 mana cards instead of... Prismatic Ending is like at its best when you're exiling 1 mana permanents, 1 and like 0 mana permanents with it. So like things like Ragavan, DRC, Cookbook, Asmora, Dispatch obviously does all of that if you have Metalcraft. But you know, obviously you want to be able to cast these spells on turn 1. So Prismatic Ending is better on turn 1, whereas Dispatch is not quite as good on turn 1. But Dispatch is better as long as the like game goes longer. So if their permanents are going to be 3 mana creatures, 4 mana creatures, then Dispatch is a little bit better for those spots. Just my thinking on that. Wonder if they're going to be on. I might keep the Spellbomb because they might be on the white creature. Maybe no. I'll take out the Spellbomb. We'll bring in like 1 relic. Maybe a Pithing Needle isn't bad. We'll just do Pithing Needle over the relic, other way around. They're probably going to bring in a bunch of artifact hate. Sword of Fire and Ice gets a lot worse when your opponent has a bunch of artifact hate. Just a 3 mana artifact that they get to blow up, basically. And if there's a creature that's an artifact with it on it, it gets a lot worse too there. Hand's almost good enough to keep. One of those cards with a land, it might have been a keep. This hand's pretty solid on the other hand. I'm probably supposed to bottom the Daredevil, which kind of stinks because I mean, we don't have any way to put the Asmora into play though, unfortunately. Maybe we're supposed to think about this here for a second, because so what we're going to do is we're going to go turn 1 Monkey, turn 2 Stoneforge Mystic, turn 3 Ranger-Captain. But if we ditch one of these threats, the alternative option is that we go turn 3 Ranger-Captain for Asmora, and then this Saga can grab Vial, and we can Vial in Asmora, which then grabs Cookbook, and then you have Ovalchase Cookbook. Maybe we're supposed to put back the Ranger-Captain with this hand. I actually think we are supposed to put back... I don't know. It's a really close call. I'm going to put back Stoneforge Mystic with this hand, I think, actually, because Ranger-Captain is the best threat if we hit 3 lands and they kill our Ragavan, right? So if they kill Ragavan, then... Ranger-Captain is slightly better than Stoneforge Mystic in this setting because we can grab another Ragavan, we can grab Asmora, and then Asmora, you know, with the Daredevil, I think is pretty solid. So I think this is probably the best keep, but also if they don't kill Ragavan, it gets a lot better for us as well because the Ranger-Captain gets to be played on turn 2, and we snowball very, very quickly. Okay, so my opponent's playing a Mardu version of a very similar deck to what we're doing, feels like. Opponent could definitely have the turn 2 Asmora plus activate. They've got Terrastodon. Okay, so this is Reanimator. This is not what I thought it was. Shift turn 2 persist, turn 1 Cookbook, turn 2 persist. I don't have any answers or sorceries, so it's not a big deal. Pithing Needle doesn't do much here. Just gonna play out Saga. Do we board in the 1 relic? I did board in 1 relic. So I do have a relic to go get with Saga if we get to that point in the game. I don't think needling Cookbook makes much sense. We basically need Cookbook of our own to be able to... You grab Priest of Fell Rites, which makes some sense. Okay, so do we cast Ranger-Captain or do we just make a construct? So if we cast Ranger-Captain, we can sack it on their turn to ensure that we are going to get to relic their graveyard, which does seem good. But then we don't have very much in the way of like killing our opponent. I guess we get to make a construct on our turn. It's not that big of a deal. And we also have the creature that we get there with the Ranger-Captain. See, I'm gonna do this. We're gonna grab a Ragavan, I think, which makes the most sense. I'm gonna go ahead and Ranger on their turn. Just to guarantee that they can actually put this Terrastodon back into play. Okay, that was a good draw for them. So I think here it's actually probably more correct for us to just deploy some threats rather than make a construct. Feels a little bad because the Saga didn't do much in terms of making threats, but it's going to grab us this. It's going to grab us this relic. Is really all we needed to do. Just going to play Stoneforge Mystic. Go grab... probably... I think Nettlecyst probably makes the most sense. It's just like a threat that I can cast and... buy some time that way if they do kill the Stoneforge Mystic. Also, putting the Nettlecyst on the monkey is probably the best case scenario. Let's go ahead and put the Kaldra into play. Just get it in for 5. Some consideration to attacking with monkey, letting them block with the Seasoned Pyromancer, and then So we can get in with monkey because we have the Eiganjo Castle. There's no reason for them to start cracking food now. They should have cracked cookbook. And I guess this is fine. I'm just gonna name Seasoned Pyromancer. This turns off the ability in the graveyard. The only other option that you can choose is on a Royal Cookbook, but I don't think it's gonna matter too much. They have the option of sacrificing this to pick the Pyromancer back up to draw a couple cards, but it costs them, 4 + 3 to get this back into play. So I may have had lethal there that I just missed. This has 1, 2, 3. Not quite, right? 1 short. We can Stoneforge in the Nettlecyst and then equip it to the monkey, and it gives it +3/+3. We'd have 10 damage. Although I guess they have 2 foods, so shouldn't try and go for that line anyways. Godless Shrine off the top. Do I want to just cast Daredevil, or do I want to? I don't think it really matters a ton. I'm just gonna cast Daredevil. Just gives me another. I guess I was supposed to attack with Stoneforge Mystic if I chose this route, but it's not a huge deal. Like I said, the 1 point's not gonna matter a ton. Where they're either gonna get a big dude into play, or they're just gonna die here with these creatures hitting them. This turn, I'm probably just going to Stoneforge in the Nettlecyst and move it to the Kaldra. This just makes this the largest trample first strike creature possible. Is it +1, 2, 3, 4? Portable Hole. It's gonna exile the Kaldra Germ. Okay, it exiles the Kaldra Germ. All right, so we got a little bit more magic to play. Okay. Where do we start? This probably starts with sack this, go grab a Sacred Foundry, untapped. Cast Nettlecyst. Put the Nettlecyst on the monkey. Attack with monkey Daredevil. Actually, I'll attack with all 3, right? They have to block these 2 creatures, so they're probably going to put the Pyromancer in front of the Daredevil, and then Elemental in front of the monkey. Stoneforge. You blocked correctly. This is the only block that makes sense. They're going to take 1. So we have 6, 7, sorry, 5, 6 mana. So if we draw a land, a Mox Amber, a couple draws that we have to just move the Kaldra to the monkey. Probably move the Kaldra to the Stoneforge though. I don't want to over-invest on the monkey. They just have like a path to exile. It'd be kind of awkward. Priest Fell Rights. So they persisted the Season Pyromancer back. Doesn't look like they found much. They're still at like such a low life total that the priest is not even really all that big of a deal. Yeah, so this just lets me move the equip Kaldra to Stoneforge Mystic. Attack you with both. If they have another basic, they can sack, go to 5, and they go chump block this, put 2 damage in front of this, so they take 4, they go to 1. But the priest can't come back. Like, they can't unearth priest and activate the ability because they have to pay 3 life to activate this ability. There was a brief point in time when I was playing Walking Ballista as a tutor target with Ranger-Captain. And then I was also playing Basilisk Collar as a tutor target with Urza Saga. It felt like 2 mana intensive, and the Shadowspear ends up being better in a lot of spots anyways. So because I was choosing to play Archon's a good discard. They have Persist. You got Persist? Whew, he's got Persist. I still don't think this is good enough. Just gonna discard Daredevil. Did you draw Path? What did we draw? I mean, they get to gain a lot of life. They get to gain 6 here, go to 10. Dispatch is probably good enough. We have 3 artifacts. It's not lethal, still. Hit you for 9. Or a 10. You already showed me one path, right? No, they haven't pathed anything this game. Persist, Seasoned Pyromancer. Man, their draws have just been nutty. Just drawing cards to keep them alive. I think we're kind of getting to the bottom of the barrel here, though. I think they're starting to fizzle. I could be wrong, but Cookbook Shattering Spree, pick up Daredevil. Just casting Daredevil, gaining 3 life. Okay, gain 3. Cycle Street Wraith. Okay, so we gotta draw a path off the top. Is the line. Okay. Opponent conceded. The reanimator decks that I've seen people play so far, not been super impressive. For the most part, I think that Mardu variant that my opponent was just playing is probably the best one, with mid-range threats like Seasoned Pyromancer, Liliana the Veil, to try and help you out in the mid game, vindicate, things like that. And that deck's just it's still just not as impressive as I want it to be. I wouldn't play the Priest of Felrites. I've seen a couple people try and do that, and I don't think Priest is like a very good modern card. Energizer Axe asks, what kind of discard outlets do you have for Asmo? So for this particular deck, there's not very many discard outlets. Originally, the list that I was playing 4 copies of Street Wraith and 4 cookbooks, so you had 8. We swapped the 4 Street Wraiths for 4 copies of Aether Vial. You can put Asmora into play with Aether Vial on 0. So if you play an Aether Vial on 0, or on turn 1, you can Vial in your Asmora, which is generally going to be a lot of the ways that we put Asmora into play in this deck. I don't think it's a huge concern. Obviously, that last game, we decided to use Urza's Saga to tutor up a Relic of Progenitus to exile our opponent's graveyard. That's what we ended up winning the game anyways. Like, my opponent was doing very little. As long as they didn't reanimate a creature, we were probably going to win that game. So we tutored up a Relic of Progenitus rather than an Aether Vial. But if you choose to tutor up Aether Vial, that game may still end up going in your favor, because you can tutor up Vial in your Asmora, grab a cookbook, start the cookbook plus Daredevil loop, that kind of thing. So Yeah, it's been interesting so far. I was a little bit on the fence about Aether Vial, if I'm being honest. I had asked Spike on his stream earlier today to see if he had any suggestions for a list like this, and he said he'd want to try out Vial and something like this, and it's been okay so far. I don't know if it's technically the correct way to go, but it's been all right. I think I'm going to keep this put back Pyrite Spellbomb. Might be some consideration to keeping Spellbomb because they can put a creature in front of the monkey here on turn 1, but we'll just have to see. We draw an Asmora this hand, or I'm sorry, a Daredevil or an Asmora. Actually, probably best draw is a Daredevil at this point. Yeah, best draw is Daredevil. Because Ranger Captain finds it's not a bad draw if they just kill the first monkey. Obviously, if they don't kill the first monkey, who cares? Monkey's connecting, doing his thing. Bolt the monkey. Okay. Monkey cookbook. So yeah, if you draw Daredevil, that's probably the best draw here still. Play Advantage. Try and get in with the monkey. Got another one. Got another removal spell. Searing Blaze. Well, that's a little annoying. Cookbook's bound to help out in this matchup, though. I'm going to make a couple constructs this turn rather than playing out the Ranger Captain. Oh, I clicked through that. My bad. I've done that before. It's not the first time I've clicked through that by mistake. I guess at this point, probably best line is just to go grab Shadowspear. And I'm gonna move the Shadowspear to the construct and try and start gaining some life. If they point a bolt at it, we can just make it bigger by discarding a card with the cookbook. Yeah, they just conceded. They just don't want to try and beat this. And I don't blame them. It's probably a terrible matchup for them. We just have 4 cookbooks. We just have 4 ways to constantly gain 3 life. And a bunch of ways to tutor it too. So cards to consider, like Dispatch is okay. Relic's not super relevant. Piling Needle nor Wear and Tear. Wear and Tear is like somewhat interesting because it technically hits Eidolon. But not super impressive. The Prismatic Endings kind of do that anyways, so don't really need anything like that. You could like make an argument for Void Mirror because it technically counters the Rift Bolts off Suspend, which is kind of interesting, but it's like very narrow. Probably not the way you want to be going. So what cards are actually good? Probably just the Dispatches. And even those, I'm just kind of like, no, well, I mean, we have a Spellbomb just to tutor up for more removal. I'm worried about like killing things. I'm just gonna run it back. I can't imagine this matchup's that bad for us. This hand is keepable. It's not great, but it is fine. I'm somewhat tempted to lead on turn 1 Saga. Let's see what we're gonna draw here this turn. Another copy of Asmora. So the reason that you might want to lead on turn 1 Saga is because turn 1 Saga means on turn 3 we get to go grab Cookbook, which then pitches Daredevil, which then gets Asmora into play, which grabs another Cookbook. We get our engine going a little bit quicker. Whereas if you play Saga on turn 2, it may not be able to get that going quite as quickly. I think it's probably correct to play Saga on 1. This goes very poorly for us if our opponent has an Alpine Moon. Or even just a Wear Tear. Obviously, not playing Monkey on turn 1 is also not ideal, necessarily. Spellbomb. Draw Saga. Guess I'm going to go ahead and dash the Monkey. I just don't want to give them an opportunity to kill it with the Spellbomb, so may as well just get it in, make a treasure. Developing our mana here just a little bit on board. Lightning Helix would be so good if we could do it, if we could have cast it, but we're not going to get to cast that here. Not a big deal. Gotta move to hand size. We'll just discard a Daredevil. Prismatic Ending on top. Okay, just tap this for mana. Go grab a Cookbook. Could also grab a Vial. I don't hate that. No, it's probably correct to grab Cookbook, right? Is there really any difference? We grab Cookbook, this goes back to our hand, we activate it, put a food in the graveyard. Or put a food in play, put this in the graveyard, this goes back to our hand. We get to cast Asmora from our hand, which costs us 1 mana. And then we can't cast Prismatic Ending and Monkey. So like, the Vial makes it a little bit better for the purposes of casting our spells from our hand. So let's just grab that. Just put Asmora into play. Could see an argument either way for Vial or Cookbook. Obviously, if you go with the Cookbook, then you get to make more food more quickly. And as we discussed earlier, that's kind of all this matchup is about, just like making food, gaining life, and making it very difficult for your opponent to keep pace with you. But this way we do get to sort of leave up mana to put the Monkey back into play on their end step. I'm just going to pass here. Yeah, feels like they're probably going to bolt our guy. Not a huge concern. We have 2 more of those where that came from, and we can start gaining life this turn. Opponent just concedes. Opponent can't beat this loop. Especially not on 1 land. I'm like not saying that you know, they have no shot against that matchup. It seems rough for them for sure, but you know, if you have the loop going, if you have Daredevil plus Cookbook, it seems quite difficult. Daredevil plus Cookbook and then mana to sack food every turn, right? You just gain 3 every turn. It's like they cast Bolt, counter it. Cast another Bolt, counter it. Really difficult for them to keep pace. So we're 3-1 right now. What did we lose to in round 1? We lost to... What did we lose to? Black-White Stoneblade. That's right. We had the fight with like the Kaldras and stuff. Pretty good game, I'm not gonna lie. It was a pretty good game. But came down to time and I was just running short on it. At least in game 1. Maybe I conceded a little early in game 1. Oof. The triple Urza's Saga draw. Am I supposed to keep this? I mean, we have turn 1 Vial to put the Stoneforge into play, and then like Urza's Sagas just pump out constructs. I'm gonna keep this. It might be incorrect, but they did show me Lurrus as a companion, so if they just go like turn 1 Swamp Inquisition, take my Vial, this hand gets a little bit more awkward. It's not the worst, because we just still are just making constructs every turn for the next few turns. Just gonna let them do their thing. Bobble. Target themselves. Fetch land. Rack set fetch land. Watery Grave Thoughtseize. Feels like possibly a Death Shadow deck. Could also be Grixis, Lurrus. Very similar to the red-black Lurrus deck that's been running around a little bit. There's a Grixis variant that some players are playing. I think it was piloted by Jerry Thompson, most notably. Kind of looks like that's what this is. Prismatic Ending, solid draw. I think we're gonna just kill this. Inquisition, take the Stoneforge, then it's what you got versus 3 Urza Sagas. I think it makes more sense to actually not sure. Let's just play a second Urza Saga. Not sure what is the correct lineup. I know obviously if you play second Urza Saga, now we can't activate the second chapter ability of that Urza Saga on Curve. But I don't think it's going to matter a ton. Like if we just get to go like make a construct, untap, make a construct, untap, make a construct, and you know, just like really just put our opponent under the gun. Just gonna make a construct with this thing here. Go grab an artifact. Probably just gonna grab a vial, honestly. Play out Funky. Play an Arid Mesa. I guess if this is the line, we're probably just supposed to play Arid Mesa last turn. Yeah, that makes more sense. Let's just, you know, play Arid Mesa last turn instead of Urza Saga. Not really any reason to play Saga instead. Unless we're trying to line up like another 1 mana artifact on this next turn. Which is like fine, you know, we get to make a construct and then grab another 1 mana artifact, which is not nothing. I'm gonna say no to this Aether Vial ability. Drawing third or fourth saga is kind of nutty, I'm not gonna lie. What do we want to grab here? Probably just grab Pyrite Spellbomb. I don't hate that. Mox Amber is not bad either. I think I like Mox Amber. Just grab Mox Amber, move the Shadowspear. Kind of cool. Equip this here. Play out another saga. I guess it doesn't really make much sense to do it that way, but I think all roads led to Rome in that scenario. Our opponent's hand was poor for sure. Okay, so we're playing against probably Grixis Death Shadow to some degree. Relics are somewhat interesting against DRC in general. Relic's probably like one of the better graveyard management tools that you have against DRC. Sword of Fire and Ice is quite poor against graveyard or against artifact hate. In general, as I mentioned previously, Pyrite Spellbomb not at its best. And then what else do we want to cut? You can trim on one Vial, one Ragavan, and then like one Asmora. It probably makes more sense to trim the Mox Amber. It's just like harder to have legendary creatures in play against a deck like theirs. See, maybe just not bringing in all three relics. Relics, mostly there just to turn off Delirium, make their Unholy Heats a little bit more awkward, make their DRCs a little bit more awkward, and so on and so forth. If they're playing any Gurmag Anglers, those get a little bit more awkward. Murktide Regents, those get a little bit more awkward. You know, you get the idea. This hand feels like a keep. It's pretty bad if they've got like EE on one or Shattering Spree with a bunch of red mana to back it up, but we got removal for a turn 1 threat, and we've got some interaction with Relic, and we've got some good pieces alongside it. Solid hand, I would say. Probably gonna get Inquisition, probably gonna lose the Ranger. Oh no, okay. Turn 1 Channeler. Just gonna ending that. Bend to terminate. They're almost already to Delirium. Almost delirious. Plains ending. Could make an argument for starting on Relic. I think I like just ending the first DRC. Did in fact have a second one, but Relic is going to manage this one quite well. I think I just want to... let's just get the cookbook out of our hand. Probably not going to activate it anytime soon here, but... they are going to have Delirium this turn. Probably going to take the Ranger-Captain. So Dispatch. Interesting. It's possible my opponent doesn't really understand what Ranger-Captain is going to do in this particular setting. In any case, I'm just going to go ahead and start eating their graveyard. Urza Saga would be pretty solid draw here. Second Inquisition from them is pretty good. Is the second Inquisition? Second Inquisition. part of me thought it may have been third. Oh, I guess I'm supposed to make a food there, right? I'm supposed to discard the Ranger to the cookbook, just make a food. My bad. Yeah, cookbook. I think we'll go end of turn. Sack Canyon. I think there's a ton of reason to do it on our own main phase. EE for 1, you say. It's quite rude, opponent. Why would you do such a thing? Yeah, let's go ahead and start sacking relics, I guess. Just want to make sure that I have enough mana to do this once we get to that point. Prismatic Ending is a great draw. That's honestly the card that I was hoping to hit there, so glad we did. It's a tad bit unfortunate we're not going to get to cast the Etched Champion, but not the end of the world. Not having relics here is a little bit awkward. I wonder if maybe we're just supposed to leave them with EE and just like trade EE and Dragon's Rage Channeler for our permanents that, like the 3 leftover artifacts that aren't really super relevant here. Sack Canyon, draw a card. Aether Vial, and a Windswept Heath. Play Etched Champion. Felt like for a brief moment there, my opponent was trying to figure out how to put an extra card in our graveyard because they probably have a Drown in the Lock in their hand. It also felt like they may have had Kolaghan's Command, but I think that's okay. 2 damage to me. Shatter my Shadowspear. Well, we don't have any way to gain life link at this point. Obviously, we have the cookbooks to just gain life, but no ways to actually give anything life link. Shadowspear is the only effect we have of that in the deck. That's not going to do it there. If we still had the Shadowspear, it's a different game, but don't have the Shadowspear, so. Move on to a second game here. This build is still fine. Does feel like my opponent is on the Grixis Jerry Thompson list, not the Grixis Death Shadow list that I've seen roaming around a little bit. So I think there's like 2 different iterations of Grixis at this current time. Jerry's list is more typical of your average Grixis pile of blue cards, in the sense of like Grixis in the sense of Snapcaster Mage Culligan's Command loops. Caught 4, appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in, man. Jerry's list is more in the sense of Snapcaster Mage Culligan's Command, Drown in the Loch, that kind of pile of stuff. Whereas the Death Shadow list is more centered on aggressive 1-mana creatures. I think my opponent's on the Jerry Thompson list. Is this hand a keep or is this a mull? Ranger-Captain is a little bit awkward without double white in the opening hand. Urza Saga is obviously pretty powerful, but it can be awkward if my opponent just has an Alpine Moon. And then like the Cookbook Kaldra is kind of a mulligan. If we keep this hand, it just goes turn 1 Cookbook, turn 2 Stoneforge, turn 3 Stoneforge activate. But then we don't have anything to do with Ranger. If we get Ranger mana, we have the Cookbook to put the Asmora into play. I think this is kind of a keep. Oh, we'll go ahead and keep this one. It's close, but I think I will keep this. We have lands and spells. It's not the best hand, but it's not terrible either. It's a lot worse if our opponent has an Alpine Moon. Kind of like think there should be a Springleaf Drum in here somewhere. It's certainly possible. My opponent is not aware of the Thoughtseize bug. Clearly, they should have taken my worst card. So that way I would have drawn another copy of the worst card. Grab a Nettlecyst. Kind of, yeah, so the Springleaf Drum thing, I agree to some degree. Springleaf Drum is definitely another way to get an extra mana source in play. I've chosen to play Mox Amber over Springleaf Drum, but you could definitely choose to play Springleaf Drum, and it may just be more correct to do that. But I wanted to try Mox Amber in a deck that has a pretty dense amount of legendary creatures and ways to tutor those legendary creatures. I think it seems kind of interesting in that sort of a shell. Okay, we'll go ahead and play out Urza Saga here. Kind of wonder what I'm supposed to do here. Am I supposed to just like get value out of my Saga, or am I supposed to get my Kaldra into play? I guess if, man. Yeah, I mean, I just have to get Kaldra into play. If I just don't do it now, I'm just not going to get another opportunity to do so. The problem is that they're very clearly representing the Culligan's Command, and I should have done this on my main phase, just attack them for 5. But if I just make a construct there, we're completely tapped out. They kill the Stoneforge Mystic and they shatter the construct, which isn't like the end of the world for us, but we're going to lose a land next turn, and then the Kaldra's just rotting in our hand. Kill the Stoneforge, blow up the Cookbook. Both of those modes are fine. I think I'm gonna go grab a Vial here with this Saga. Drew a monkey. Don't think monkey changes anything. Sack this, go get... Yeah, I still think it's Vial. somewhat interesting to note with Springleaf Drum. I know Springleaf Drum somewhat makes your mana situation a little bit less awkward, just on the basis of being able to make black mana. So maybe you don't have to play the Godless Shrine in the deck. I think it's probably correct to play Godless Shrine in the deck because it gives you your third color with Prismatic Ending, and also not too worried about that. Construct down. Gives you your third color to make with Prismatic Ending, and then you can also cast the Daredevils if you absolutely need to. Not a ton of games where that feels good, but it does come up sometimes where you have to do it that way. Just gonna make a mana here with this. Go grab. What do I want to grab here? Is it just like Shadowspear? Start gaining a bunch of life. I think Relic's got some merit too. Relic makes their DRC a little more awkward, but we have the Prismatic Ending for the DRC. I think Shadowspear is probably the best card here. Playoff Saga. Yeah, I think I don't really think I'm supposed to care about the DRC if I'm being honest. So my options here are to cast Nettlecyst for 3 mana. We have 3 mana available to us here in this main phase. Or we can just Shadowspear the Germ. Shadowspearing the Germ gains us 6 life, which is not nothing, but we're at 20 right now, so like we're not really at risk of dying anytime soon. The other option is to play Nettlecyst, have another threat in play, which I think makes the most sense. And then we get to Vial in the Monkey on the end of their turn. I think I'm going to cast Nettlecyst here. Another reason to consider it this way is because this turn we definitely have 3 mana to cast the Nettlecyst. We may not have 3 mana to cast Nettlecyst in the future. Because we had that mana floating from that saga that went to the bin this turn. Man, destroy the Nettlecyst, make me discard. I think I'll discard the Prismatic Ending. Did they do that in their upkeep? When did they do that? Put this rat monkey into play. We'll go up to 2 on this. I do want to get it to 3 for the purposes of the Ranger Captain. Definitely going to play out Sunbaked Canyon here. Opponent does not currently have a land in their graveyard, which means that the Channeler will become a 3/3. Just going to attack with the Germ. No attack with the Monkey. I'm going to make 2 constructs here with this Saga. Unholy Heat the Ragavan. It's fine. Okay, opponent concedes. So that was a 4-1 league. We ended up only losing to a pseudo mirror match. It wasn't really a mirror match. I mean, they weren't playing Asmo. I don't know why I called it a mirror match. It was a Stoneforge mirror. Like they had equipments, we had equipments. They had their Kaldra in play. We had a pretty rough game one. It went long, and there's a possibility that I would have won game one if I had actually played that out. I'm not too sure. It felt like we were pretty far behind, and I was low on time, so I decided to concede in the effort of winning games 2 and 3. But this deck was cool. We went 4-1 with it. I'll probably continue to tinker around with it a little bit. One thing I do want to try out here real quick, we're going to go run through a league, maybe not in the entire league, but we'll go ahead and run through a few games with this, see how this plays out. This is a green dipped version of the same deck. This only couple benefits with this deck. It's more of a like a tutor style deck with Eladamri's Call. You get to find certain bullets of creatures. So you can grab like Eladamri's Call for Ranger Captain, which Ranger Captain grabs Ragavan or Asmora. You can Eladamri's Call for Ovalchase Daredevil. And then you also get access to Wrenn and 6 when you dip green because you can start recycling Urza Saga. So this is kind of an interesting take on the deck. I want to give this a shot and we'll see how this goes. So